everyone. Welcome back to Balance Her Hustle Live. I am Miss Ashley ESQ. And thank you for joining us. Balance Her Hustle. We help professional women to create, grow, and enjoy success. We have a very special guest and also a very important topic that she's going to help us unravel. We're going to be discussing the underrepresentation of women in the tech industry. We have our guest, which is Temnee, ESQ Esquire as well. Temnee is a tech attorney in Silicon Valley. Please join me in welcoming our guest. All right. So, Temnee, is there anything you want to do to introduce yourself? You are a tech attorney. She's been in this field for many years, and this is a very important topic because we know there are so many people that are looking to either aspiring to get into tech or that are in tech, and they've got so many questions. And so you are the perfect person for this topic. So I want to go ahead and get started by talking about the statistics of women in tech. I think that's probably the most alarming thing that kind of triggered us to have this discussion today. So women in tech, the statistics. So we have about 26.7% of the entire body of tech employees, right, is women. So 26.7. And of that 26.7, we have 1.7 of the 26.7 are actually Black women. And so very alarming statistics, right? So we have Temnee as a double minority in this space as a woman and also a Black woman who works in the tech industry. And so definitely something that we wanted to discuss. And I think we actually discussed that even these statistics may not actually be accurate and actually may be less than what we just saw, less than what's being reported. So what do you think about the statistics, Temnee?
Yeah, those statistics that you just spoke about are from 2022. And I think, as everyone knows, there's been massive layoffs in the tech industry. And I think that it has hit women and underrepresented minorities in particular, because we tend to be in more of the G&A functions, which is general and administration. And so HR, legal, finance, even more like product managers and program managers. That's where we saw a lot of the layoffs.
Right. So that's interesting. So you're saying as it relates to women, we're within the jobs that are actually being hurt the most in this time. You know, one of the things that I learned while I was working in corporate is that when we talk about layoffs, how that works is that where they identify fat within the company, right? Where areas of positions that they typically feel like they don't need. And so when you say that most of the women are within areas that are actually experiencing the highest amount of layoffs, that's very interesting. I don't want to say it's strategic, but it seems like, okay, you know, if we already have a very low ratio of women within the space and women are actually being cut off, actually being laid off first, that's not healthy for the industry. Let me ask you this: what are some of the benefits that you see as a woman? What value does a woman bring in the tech industry? And I asked you this because we had discussed this before, and I think there are differences, right? When you have a male dominant environment, a mixed environment with you have co-ed, or where you have a female dominant environment. What is your experience with that?
I think women in general are more like multifaceted, and we can juggle things a little bit better than men can sometimes. And then I think, you know, without being sexist, I think we just bring like a different energy to the work environment. So I think our perspective and our viewpoints are going to be different than males. So I like that I can bring something different than some of my male counterparts can bring to a conversation or to an issue or to a problem. And I think that that's why we need the diversity within the tech space.
Absolutely. I think that that's excellent. And I think one thing that we both know, I think women, we thrive in environments and communities, in community environments, right? I think that's part of even the development of this brand is collectively when women get together, we just function better. Like we're just better when we can talk about things related and unrelated to work or just related to us as women. I think that's when we thrive the most. And that's very important. It kind of sounds like, um, I don't know, maybe that's part of the reason why, you don't find a lot of women in tech, because it is such a male dominant environment, where we would actually rather work in environments where it's actually more nurturing to us as women. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I've definitely had to seek out groups outside of work. Fortunately, the company that I work at now, the women, it's a startup. There's only 200 employees, and the women are such a small minority that we've kind of formed our own group without the company starting one. So we've done activities and lunches outside of work to kind of build our own community and provide that support to each other. But if you don't have that within your work environment, I've had to seek that out with like LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups and
Mhm.
find a community of women that I can speak to about my experience there.
Right. No, I think that's very important. I think that's important in any environment, but I definitely see, by looking at the numbers and the statistics, we definitely can see the importance of that in the tech world as well. One question that I have for you: how did you get your start?
So I'm kind of like a tech baby, I would say. Like we moved to Silicon Valley for my dad to take a job in tech over 20 years ago. So I was always exposed to it. So I think I had that benefit, but I definitely didn't have the benefit of like having someone get me a job in tech when I needed one. When I went to law school and I was looking at internships, I looked in my environment and living in Silicon Valley, it was just easiest to find a tech job. And then when I graduated from law school, I kind of just hustled and found a contractor role at a private tech company and got them to convert me to a full-time employee and just have been working in tech ever since. So I think it's a little bit of the product of my environment, but a little bit of like hustle also.
Right. Do you feel like it was a difficult entry for you, coming, look for your first opportunity?
I would say it was a challenge. I think that you have to realize working at a tech company, the type of people that you work with, you're working with a lot of, you're supporting a technical company. So you're supporting people who are very technical. Engineers have definitely a different personality, mindset, way of working. And so I think that you have to learn to adapt to that and learn how to work with them. And so I think getting in isn't as hard as staying in and growing
Mm,
and thriving in the tech world. So I'd love, and we talked about this, I'd love to see like programs and more focus being on how people stay in the environment once they get in there and then giving them the support they need for their professional development so that they can thrive in those environments, because there are some things that are unique and particularly difficult being in tech, like the instability and the constant change, which is why people love tech because it's innovative. But because of that innovation, there's just a lot of change and movement.
right. No, I think there's so many things that you said that I just wanted to just like highlight in that conversation. So it sounds like, okay, of course your entry was different because you carry a level of expertise that maybe, or most people won't, right? I don't even know the percentage of women attorneys, let alone Black women attorneys. So your entry was slightly different for that reason, right? I think we would agree with that. Kind of gave you a higher level of expertise, and so the application pool was maybe different. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think definitely internships. I think internships are still
Right,
a really great way to get into a field. And so I think by me interning while I was in law school at tech companies, that
right.
was definitely a differentiator. And learning the environment, like I talked about earlier on, that definitely helps boost your career. So yeah, that's what I would say. Right.
Oh, well, I think that's excellent. And then one of the things that you highlighted is staying in. Like, okay, you're in,
Yeah.
but maybe that there's a high turnover. Maybe you see someone after a couple years, they're in a different industry. What do you think is happening there? Do you think that there's, because it's not a nurturing environment for women, a nurturing environment for women? Do you think that there's microaggressions that people are experiencing? Um, just the community of people that they can identify is not there. What do you think is happening? And I know you said also part of the the learning and education and the growth to kind of help maintain. What do you think about that? Do you want to speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people aren't exposed to like they haven't worked with a lot of women or they haven't worked with a lot of underrepresented minorities. So
Uh-huh.
there are microaggressions, there are passive aggressiveness, there is uncomfortable conversations that you might be a party to or overhear.
Right.
And I think that I've thrived mostly in environments where there is some kind of community that I can be a part of. So whether it's like an African American or Black group, employee resource group, or if it's a women's group, or if it's even just my legal department team, if you find your community within a company, that is, I think, your best step towards being successful and wanting to stay at that company and thriving in that environment. Because a lot of people, like, you don't want to stay in an environment where you're not being promoted, you're not being acknowledged, you're not thriving. So part of that is professional development, and then the other half of it is like social and um, just comfort in an environment.
Yeah. You know what stood out to me is community, and the importance of that. I think, and when we look back, right, we were always told like, oh, if you want to make the campus smaller, you want to, you got to get involved, right? But community is still something that's important today.
Right.
Even 20 years outside of school, or however many years you're outside of the classroom, forming your community within even a workplace and the value of it, right? Because I can imagine, I know what community is for me. It's also having that community maybe when you had a bad day, or someone that you can speak to when you're not sure how to handle a situation, or maybe you're thinking about applying to another job, or a higher level job. I think it's that community support that's going to like give you the inspiration, that's going to give you some insight, their level of expertise of, what to do and what not to do, their past experiences. Don't you think that's pretty much, it's that community that kind of like builds you up and kind of
Yeah,
nurtures you, give you
and the
this.
diversity within that community. Like I joined a company through an acquisition, so it was a very turbulent time. But the benefit of joining it is that they had a Black employee network group, and we're still in touch to this day. But I think the part that was most impactful about that group is we were all in completely different departments. I was on the legal team. We had someone in finance, we had someone in HR, we had someone in
Right.
engineering. So I learned a lot from the person who was in HR. He gave me a playbook on how to interview for jobs that has been literally life changing. So I
Right.
think having diversity within the community that you're in, and the community being willing to not just like support you, but also like educate and share information, and being transparent and vulnerable really can just be a game changer.
No, I think that's excellent. I think that's excellent. Like, I just want to put emphasis on just that segment right there, because I think community is so important. And I think oftentimes, as individuals, we may be intimidated by the community, or maybe we've had bad experiences where we feel like no one is advocating for you and no one wants to see you be successful, or, we've
Right.
heard things like crabs in the bucket. But that doesn't apply. And there are people out there that are willing to like help you and advocate for you, and that's what it's about, right? Building that community, um, that we can kind of like nurture each other, and so I'm sure
Yeah.
just as beneficial as they were to you, if I know you, you were also like extremely beneficial to them. Timmy has been an excellent friend, so, and very resourceful, so I'm sure it was mutual. So it's like community is definitely something that is like super valuable, even in our adulthood, even in our professional lives, maintaining that community. What do you think? I know we talk about community within the workplace. What do you think about community outside of the workplace? So like there's a lot of organizations that are women in tech organizations that's like outside, right? Like almost like third party or
Right.
secondary organizations. What do you think about those communities? Do you feel like they have been as valuable to you, as some of the in-house internal communities that you're speaking about?
Yeah, I definitely think you need a community that's not at your job also, because there's certain things that no matter how close you are to people, you probably shouldn't be talking about with them at work. So I'm in a Black Women in Tech group that this woman
Mhm.
Lexi started. She works at Twitter, and she's fostered this group for years. And there's like little niche groups, like depending on your. I know there's lots of engineering groups that share information about boot camps and how to get into tech like that. So I think those communities are also really important. And finding some of them can be a little large though. So finding your community within the community is also good. And just being not afraid to like reach out to people one on one and have one on one conversations if you're interested in something that they might have posted about or talked about within the group.
Right. I think that's excellent. Like feeling comfortable to reach out, and then also it may not be the person that you reach out to. It might take several attempts to kind of build that community around you. And also,
Yeah.
I love how you're strategic about, like you said, there's some things that maybe you don't want to talk about with your immediate coworkers, and so you do need that external or secondary community that kind of helps you kind of navigate you throughout your career as it relates to tech. No, I think that's excellent. What do you think about what do you think about so right now tech has I mean you hear about it more, right? And I think the numbers are alarming. So you have like all these organizations that are pushing women into tech, and even more precisely black women, like
Right.
pushing for black women and black women into the tech world. What did we say? 1.7%
Yeah.
of 26.7% of women, which is just like nominal, right, in comparison to the numbers. And so, what is your experience? Like I said, you're a double minority. You are among that 1.7% of Black women in tech. And we talk about diversity. Um, have you felt the push? Have you seen um, the effects and results of the advocacy for Black women and women in general movement to join the tech force?
I have seen a lot of movement in the last I would say like the last 5 years. There's been like a really big push for people, underrepresented minorities, women, and people of color to join tech. I think that with anything, and I tell people who want to go to law school kind of the same thing, is like you still need to be passionate about what you're doing. So don't join tech for like the wrong motives. Like you just think like you're going to make six figures or you're going to get all these benefits of like doing your laundry or like just getting all these like benefits that I think are advertised in the media. You still need to be passionate, I think, about the industry or about at very least the company that you're working in.
Right.
um yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. So do you feel like because there people feel like it's a lot of money. I'm gonna hit six figures. I'm gonna make, quite a bit of money, right?
Yeah.
Back, right? By working in this industry. So do you feel like there's been like a push of just so you have people pushing you in and possibly they're dangling the dollar, right? The value
Yeah.
in it. Hey, come work for us and we'll pay you this. But do you feel like there has been okay, so if people are signing up for the money, where's the issue? Like if they're qualified or if they meet the criteria or they're a woman, so they check the box, what issues have you experienced?
I think that the passion and the wanting to be there and to do the work, because it's not an easy industry to be in. And there's a lot of benefits. It's been a beautiful career for me, but I think that you still need to be passionate about it. And passion can get you very far in terms of like being able to tolerate certain things, being able to maneuver. And if you're passionate, you're able to find like the communities that we're talking about, and just more thrive. And we talked about too earlier the with the layoffs, um, a lot of like the diversity and inclusion stuff is kind of going away, and so I think you have to be willing to like build that for yourself within your own career and your own company too.
Okay, so is you said the diversity and inclusion, you feel like it's actually going away now. So like, okay, so we saw the push, we saw, you know, advocating for minorities, even more specifically, double minorities to join the force. So now that there's layoffs, like you said, this is also where some of the trimming is coming, right,
Right.
in this industry. Um, and so I guess, wow, I'm just thinking about this as we talk. So it sounds like, um, so do you think a lot of the like the programs that kind of developed, the diversity within this community? Um,
I think the in-house program. So like the structures at companies that like during the pandemic, I think, and while we were having like a lot of social injustice, the
mhm,
diversity inclusion push was huge. You saw a lot of effort from companies. I think that that's pulled back a little now. Now that the media has pulled back, the companies have pulled back too, and you've seen it in the layoffs that a lot of like the diversity and inclusion recruiters got laid
mhm,
off, and it's unfortunate because we're going to end up where we were before. And in order to see momentum and like a significant difference in the way that the like mass employees in tech look like, we're going to have to have some more momentum and get that built back up, because it takes years of getting people hired. Well, first
right,
we should start getting people trained, then getting people hired, then getting them professional development while they're in those roles, and then getting them promoted. So it's a lot to progress people in a career.
right,
And
right.
yeah, I don't know if they're making that investment, a lot of companies.
Right. So that's interesting, though. It almost sounds like if the foot is not kept applied, or if the pressure is not there, or I was going to say if the foot is not applied on kept on the neck, right, applied to the neck, and the pressure is not there, it sounds like companies they typically won't do necessarily what we feel is the right thing to do, and that's to promote women and promote women of color within the space. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. Um, and so now, like for instance, we talked about too, like 2020, right? There was a development of like all these diversity, equity, and inclusion, like you said, jobs that just went up. Like if you were on LinkedIn, you saw like
Yeah.
massive jobs that were paying excellent, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I guess now we're what 3 years, almost 3 years or 2.5 years ago later, you're seeing these jobs are actually going away because the pressure isn't there. So it's almost like companies were doing this to because it was trending, right? And there was pressure for them to um, to do what other companies were doing. Like it was almost a marketing strategy. Is what it sounds like, right?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a marketing strategy. I don't think that this is like across the board. I think that some companies, it was built into the fabric of the company. That's different. Or their leadership, it's part of their leadership strategy and team that they want to promote women and people of color. But some companies, it was a marketing grab. And now that things
Mhm.
have, it's less popular, you see that they're making cuts to those departments, and now it's just like the diversity inclusion officer, and that's it. There's no like staff underneath them, there's no programming, there's no employee resource groups, or they're not giving funding. I've been in a lot of companies where we have an employee resource group, which is great, but
Right,
you also need funding for that group. Like the employees can't be
right,
expected to fund the group as well as run it. So
right. No, I think that's because maybe they're having to take having to cut back, right? And like you said, the likelihood of these programs coming back in the same capacity that they are is very slim, right? And then in addition to that, to build up the pipeline takes years. You may have to start at a like high school level to kind of build up the pipeline, which you won't see the result for sometimes, which feels like a generation or half a generation before you start seeing the result of the diversity. Like where's I know you talked about it, right? But I also had a conversation with someone else. the importance of diversity in a field like tech. Like, and we can just kind of go back and forth and just both add. I will say, like, one of the importance is, you know, we'll never solve all the issues within the world that needs to be solved that actually can be solved if we don't have diversity or diverse mindsets or diverse people within the conversations and creating the innovative products and technology to help solve the issues. Does that make sense? Like, if we don't know
Definitely.
problems, yeah, if we don't know what the problems are because it's not our problem, and
Yeah.
people that typically look, within a certain group may not experience these problems, we'll never reach the capacity that and the potential that we really can, without having these diverse conversations and people from other backgrounds and experiences within the room. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that like in tech, the one of the huge problems is product development, not taking into account the diverse nature. I think like a great example of that is those like automatic hand soap dispensers did not
Right.
work on Black people for a while because
Wow.
they had never tested it with people with melanin in their skin. Like that's that's obviously a break in the chain. They didn't have the right people in the room.
Mhm.
So it's nice to see,
To even think that, hey, let's check,
yeah, let's make sure
let's,
this works on everyone. If it's using a light technology, let's make
right,
sure that that reflection or however it
right.
works on all people of all different skin types. So uh, yeah, it's a little incredible that like in 2023 that we're still talking about like not building products that fit a diverse set of people and not having diverse opinions in the room. And women especially, like I feel like women, it's like how long have women been fighting? Black people have been fighting a long time too, but women have been fighting so long, and have proven that they can add so much value in a space that why aren't we there more?
Right, right, right. No, for sure. Just so much value, and especially when it comes to when it pertains to creating products or services or rules and or laws that pertains to women. We absolutely need to be at the table during these conversations so that you can hear our viewpoint and how we feel about it, and make it make sense for us.
Right.
And this is Women's History Month, so this is definitely very timely. But
Yep.
yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting that we're still having this conversation. How like I said, things are created for women, but not by women, and they're not working as they should for us because it wasn't created by us. No one asked us.
Right.
This process. So definitely. Um, Okay, one other thing I wanted to talk about, as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion is, so we have diversity, right? And that's just, you can pan a room, you can pan an office, you can look at a board meeting and see the diversity, or a staff meeting and see the diversity, right? Okay, we have equity. That's another topic.
That's a big
We
topic. That's a big
okay.
topic.
That, and if there's something you'll want to add, you can go ahead and add it.
I think, yeah, I think so. I moved to the Bay Area, like I said, because my dad got a job in tech. But when I moved from a very predominantly white 2,000 person town, and when I moved here and I was looking at high schools, every high school was like, we're diverse. Diversity is important to us.
Right,
Diversity is important to us. Diversity is important to us. And I got like sick of the word. And I think that a lot of times we're like focused on diversity and like I said, like
diversity.
getting people in the door and making the room look a
Yes,
certain way, but then it's not equitable and we're not having
right,
the same opportunities, we're not getting paid the same, we're
right.
not getting just we're not getting equality. So I think that once we get in the spaces, we also have to um, learn about what salary, like negotiate your salary every single time and
Right.
negotiate once you're in a job. We have to learn about like stock options and RSUs and how those work, tax, like how we can, you know, structure our finances in a way that's best for us. Like there are so many things that aren't equitable, even once we're in this space, that we need to figure out how to build ourselves. Unfortunately, we have to take the initiative and build ourselves up and seek out those resources and information.
Right. I think that that's excellent. That's exactly where I was going with that. So I absolutely agree. I think there's such a big emphasis on diversity. And like you said, getting people of diverse backgrounds and cultures in the room. But we've got diversity, but is there equality within the in the environments? And then is there inclusion?
Yeah,
Are you included? So I think I absolutely agree. I think there's such a big movement for diversity, and I've been in experiences where, I've worked in places where I helped in a diversity factor, right? I helped provide diversity, but I wasn't included. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like my opinion or the opportunities that came through, I wasn't included in those opportunities, but I was diverse. I'm
right.
a Black woman, so oh, we're
Yeah,
open to all. But when unique opportunities came through the door, I wasn't included.
right.
That was something that's also very important, and I think people forget the E in the I of the D, right? Of the
Right.
diversity, the inclusion. Um, the whole awareness on that. But I love what you talked about. I think those are gems. I hope you guys are writing all of that down because those are things that actually we just had a conversation when we start talking about the things that actually matters, that actually has value, that as it relates to your pay, but then also things that's not even aligned with how much your paycheck, how
Right.
much of your paycheck you bring home, but has value. And sometimes we just don't know about it,
Yep.
or no one talks about it. They mention this when they're trying to recruit us, but then no one reminds us, like we were saying, no one reminds us that we're not um, enrolled to get our match.
Right.
We met we've been here for so long, we're now eligible to get our match, or all the other opportunities that are available to us. And then one thing I think is important too is understanding our value in this space. And that's like a whole nother topic and how we measure our value and understanding our value in this space so that when we go to negotiate as a woman and as a woman of color, we are a very small minority, but we're not even realizing um, oftentimes we're taking a lot less than let's see our male counterparts and even our white male counterparts more specifically. So
Right.
I totally get that. I mean, I've seen it in my profession as well, and I'm sure it's also a thing in tech as well.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know like my first 4 years like that you should be negotiating. Like I was like, whoa, you're offering me this. I feel great. Like that sounds amazing. And then you
Mhm.
just go in there and then you're like, oh wait.
Right, right,
Wait a minute, I didn't negotiate. And you just and they it, I think that the thing that people don't realize is that it's an expectation at this point. Like people expect you to negotiate your salary on a regular basis. People expect you to advocate for yourself. So when you're not doing it, you're just doing a disservice to yourself. No one is going to it's not going to be harmful for you to be an advocate for yourself because other cultures and men do it all the time.
right, right. No, I think that's excellent. I think that's a topic that I would love to have you come back and like we can talk about it because this is a whole topic on itself. Typically women though, there's a lot of concern with maybe I'll lose a job if I push too hard, right?
Right.
Or there's strategy to it. So we definitely have to like even bring Timmy because I think you are probably excellent at this, and probably have some really good gems that we can pick up on this topic with negotiating your salary. I think that's an excellent topic. And then also as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, the importance of having having representation in management within your company, right? The
Yeah.
importance of that. Because, we all know that people are more likely to be biased for people that look like them, right? Or, I mean, I'll just tell you in my instance, there's times where I have clients that's like, oh, you remind me of my granddaughter, and I'm hired for that reason,
Yep.
right? Or something like that. So that's just the nature of humans. And so that's why it's so important that women, including women of color, excel to higher levels of management, because oftentimes when you don't have that level of diversity, sometimes we forget to diversify and to include and to make things equal within our professional work setting. Did you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think that there's a special bond that women have. And I think that that shows up not only in our like personal relationships, but it shows up professionally. So when you have a female leader, it's different. I know some people have things about having female bosses, but there is something different about a woman who is committed to bringing other women into the space and to promoting them and giving them professional development and mentoring them and sponsoring them that
Right,
can really make a difference in your career.
right. Absolutely. I think that's 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 what we're all about, including at Balance or Hustle. That's a lot of what the brand is: community, and also advocating for one another as other professional women. Um, I will say also, what are some of the equitable benefits? I know we talked about, like, hey, there's, you work for tech, you're going to make six figures, starting, or you're just going to make a lot of money, and then the benefits are great. Is there anything that you think that's like a great perk that if someone's interested, that they should definitely keep in mind?
I think that every company, well, fortunately, I think like it's gotten really competitive in this space. So like everyone's looking to like Google and Meta and companies like that for like the starting baseline of their benefits, and then they'll kind of like go down from there. But I would just like I think a lot of people once they get in a job, they kind of ignore like, oh, those emails that somebody may send or those like benefit refreshers. You need to go to those. Okay, like
Right.
when they said that they're adding a benefit, even if it's like doesn't have anything to do with maybe something that I think that applies to me, I go and learn about it because I might be in a different situation next year where that does apply to me and I will want to take advantage of that benefit. So there's like fertility benefits that are great. Stock is always great as long as your company's doing well. Bonuses, a fitness or wellness stipend, a lot of companies do. Um, yeah, just everything. Look for every single way that you can make the most of while you're at a company.
So I wanted to highlight, because we talked about this. So there's companies at this point that you said is very competitive. There's companies that will say, "Hey, we'll do your laundry for you."
Right.
Isn't that? What do you think about that? Isn't that like
I think they got rid of it. I think Google was like the main one who did that. I think they might have gotten rid of it, but I'm not quite sure. I think I read somewhere, but there's a lot of, I worked at other companies that like do dry cleaning and stuff like that. It's all to get you to stay on campus though.
right?
So most of like, I try to steer away from like those benefits unless you're fine with being at your job all the time. But there's a lot of benefits that are kind of more geared towards you staying there. Like when they provide meals and stuff, it's kind of like they want you to be
The
there.
gym, right? Right.
One company I worked for, which I love this benefit, I really miss it. We got gas, so they like a gas with like a gas company. I forget what it's called, but they come and they like fill your tank while you're at work, which is like
That was
very
nice.
nice. But that's also like you don't have to worry about getting gas when you would normally like go off campus and take a break to get your gas. You're staying on campus, so I think that
Right.
it's all about finding the balance. Like your company focuses on just finding the balance where you want to take advantage of the benefits that make sense for you, but also realize that some maybe like kind of a trap to make you work harder and longer, and just making sure you're taking care of yourself and taking time away from work and balancing your life.
I think that that's key, because like you're saying, like a lot of this is strategic to keep you on campus, probably get more hours of work and labor, right?
Yeah.
More focus, interrupted work time. So it kind of breaks into that healthy harmony of work-life balance that, sometimes, laundry may feel like a chore, but it's not work, right? You're not looking at a computer screen. So there's benefits to it. So
Right.
yeah, so that's interesting. But I thought that was probably one of the most interesting perk. I think I probably would have enjoyed the um, the dry cleaning, option,
Yeah.
especially if there was like a stipend to help us pay for it. I think
Yeah.
that would have been great. And then the gas feature, I think that would have been
Yeah, I loved that because I didn't pump my own gas for like 2 years.
right.
Yeah, it was like amazing. And you never have to like worry, like I just never had to look at my gas tank. It just, yeah, that was a really great
I'll fill it
benefit.
up when I get to work, or I'll
Yeah.
have them fill it up. Right. I think that's an excellent feature. Did you pay for it or did they pay for the gas?
You pay for it, but it was like cheaper gas too. I don't know, like the company had some kind of the
Oh,
like
okay.
actual company who did it. Forget what
Right.
it's called, but the actual company who did it, they got like some kind of like Costco kind of style
Oh,
pricing. So they had like pretty good pricing. It was cheaper than like you going to a station yourself. So
mhm.
I
Oh
wonder if they're
yeah.
still around or if
I
the
would avoid
pandemic
that
killed
one out.
them. But it
Yeah,
was
I would
good.
avoid that one out. That they would have every single time I would have like used it to the maximum, filled me up, and I would
Yep.
have been like you, hadn't pumped gas in 2 years. I think that's they would've got
Exactly.
me. Definitely they would have got me. I would have signed up just for I would have signed up just for that. I would have like
Yep.
just for that perk. No, that's excellent. Um, so we talk about the pipeline
Mm.
of tech. What do you think for maybe I have a ton of nieces, right? I don't know if you know that about me. I have a thinking about 9 nieces.
Yeah.
But if I just for instance, if I wanted to, and I'm just using them as an example, but even to our viewers, um, if you wanted to even nurture someone to a pipeline in tech, what are your recommendations? Do you know of any organizations that we should keep in mind? You know, are there any STEM programs that kids should probably get involved in that you can name out? Even local within the Bay Area or even on a national level? What do you think? Any resources that you want to share?
Um, there's an organization called Hidden Geniuses that's good. There's a lot of boot camps. I'm not obviously on like the I'm technical, but legal
Right.
technical, not
Hmm.
engineering technical. So there's tons of engineering boot camps. Stanford has some free stuff too. They do like
Hmm.
a free boot camp program. So I would like encourage you to just try all that stuff out. And I think too, what I've liked about people advertising this more like get into tech is that people are exploring things beyond being an engineer because like I would never be an engineer. Like I'm not I'm not good at math. I'm not
Right.
into science like that. So I think that there's other avenues like being a tech attorney or working in HR, working in finance, working in just like product management, where you're using some of your other skills to build a career in tech. I think that that's important too. So getting into like Black girls in tech, like a lot of these groups, you don't necessarily need to be in tech at the moment. So they're open. You can just I've learned a lot by just observing in groups, not necessarily participating. Like if I don't feel like I'm in a certain place, I'll just
That's
read
beautiful.
what other people are talking about and you can absorb and just like save a note in my phone like, oh, that was interesting. Oh,
Hmm.
that's a good resource. And so sometimes just observing and being around some of these groups, just join and see what they're about and talk to people. I did this more during the pandemic, but reaching out to people on LinkedIn, just if
Hmm.
they seem interesting, you're like, oh, I never heard of that job, or like that's interesting. I think when I feel like when I was younger, I didn't realize how many different jobs were out there. And so just exploring all the areas that you can work in and then um, being passionate about technology and innovation.
Right. I think that's excellent advice. I think everything that you said was excellent. I remember when you were sending those emails during the pandemic because we would have conversations about that and all the people that were available because
Yeah,
everyone had time, right? And
yeah.
they were the responses that you were getting. So I
And
think that's
people will still meet for you for coffee. Like people are very, I think, especially when you're younger, I'll say, like
right.
especially I think take advantage of being young. Like when you're in school, I would like going back. I took a good advantage of it, but I would say like going back, I tell people take advantage of being in school and just email people. I'm in school. People want to help students. People want to
Right.
see young people succeed
Right.
and develop. So take advantage of that time and meet as many people as possible.
Right. And another emphasis that I wanted to put on what you said, which I think is excellent, because I think oftentimes we think about tech as science, technology, engineering, mathematics. When reality is, you're strong in research, you're strong in writing, you're strong in your area of the law, and you have allowed that to you have guided yourself into a tech industry with those skills as an attorney. And so I think that that's excellent because I think, for a lot of people, like you find out what you're good at, hone in on your skills, and then guide yourself into tech, and then get your opportunity in tech. And you're considered an tech employee at that point, no matter what
Yeah.
you're doing for your company.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and be willing to learn. Like you do have to learn about like I mean, I guess in HR sometimes you don't, but like I have to learn about the products that the company sells. So I do have to learn like a lot about technology. And I've worked at some very complex organizations. So it is a ramp up. So I think that I just want to keep underlying that passion and interest really is something that like I think is an underlying thing that has to push you. So like I have to be
right,
interested in learning about like solid oxide fuel cells or data centers and how they work and stuff like that. So just because you're in more of a like general function, you still need to be passionate about technology and stuff like that. And use, like you said, use the skills that you have to apply to that area.
right. No, I think that's excellent. And I'm happy that you made that clear because data cells and what was that? Oxidation. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I worked for a company that like did solid oxide fuel cells. So they were like, yeah. So I've had to ramp up on some really difficult technology. Obviously not to like an engineer level, but you have to understand the
You have
basics
to
of how things
understand.
function to negotiate
Absolutely.
contracts and to do product counseling and all that. So um, yeah, don't think you'll never have to learn about tech if you work at a tech company and you can just
Right.
hide somewhere else. I
But
think people do that, but that's another thing of like how you can become successful in a role. You can't just like silo yourself in a function where you're like, oh, I don't need to know about this. I think that's
right.
another differentiator you can have, and um, you know, stay longer at a company and be more successful in your career.
Stay longer. Yes. Stop the resolving door, right?
Yeah.
Stay longer and have a successful career. And maybe that's part of the high turnover too is, you have maybe you have a certain level of expertise in a particular area, maybe not, related directly to science, technology, engineering, and math. You get into the tech world, and then all of a sudden you're talking about oxidization and all these other things that you never had an interest in, then you realize maybe it's not for me, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's part
And
of
you can find a company you're passionate about, like Pinterest. That's a tech company, and like it's pretty
Mhm.
simple to figure out how that works. And just
Yeah,
find where what you're interested in and what's going to make you excited and motivated to be in the industry and go to work and uplift others. Like I think that's why too you like more the more passionate people that are in the field, the more we can bring new people in and help them grow too.
absolutely. Well, I certainly enjoyed this conversation, Timmy.
Me too. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
yeah. There's still so much to talk about, and time is always limited.
Yeah.
So definitely look forward to having you back as a guest in the future, and we can definitely talk about some of these other topics that people are dying to know about, and would love to, unwrap them with you. So, is there anything that you would like to add? Would you like to give them your handle?
Yeah, I'm at Temnee Wright, my first name and my last name, on Instagram and most other social media platforms.
Okay, so yeah, you can connect with Timney that way. We'll also have her information in the caption of this video. So thank you guys for joining today. There is a link in the bio. You are welcome to please stay connected, never miss an episode. We offer discounts, we offer also updates and announcements. Please stay connected. There's a link in the bio where you can join our mailing list for free where you can stay connected with what we're doing. And then also part of the caption is a survey if you're interested in coaching and learning how you can grow and also you can create, grow, and enjoy success. Please take the survey, and we will reach out to you. Willing to offer a free 30-minute consultation for the first 5 people who take the survey. The surveys are going to be in the link in the bio and also a part of the caption of this video. Thank you so much, Temnee. You've been great. Thank you for joining us, and thank you.